What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hanson, and today we're jumping back into Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and we're going to be showing you guys the settings that I have tweaked and curated to be what I consider one of the more tactical experiences you can have in the game, while also maintaining some of that necessary functionality. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it now. I hope you guys are having a great day. Let's go. Alright, so now that we're in the game here, we're going to hit the escape key, and we're going to first go to Ghost Experience Parameters. Gear level, I have that set to off. If you do want to see more about this option, you can go over here to more info, click on that. On is a little more arcadey. I mean, you can immediately tell by the graphic they throw in with it. Your weapon and gear has a level, and you increase that level and make a weapon stronger, which isn't as realistic as this, which is each weapon has its own set damage, rate of fire, and range, and can be slightly adjusted using scopes, barrel lengths, things like that. In my opinion, for a more realistic feel, gear level should be set to off. Stepping down to the difficulty of the enemies, I have this actually set to normal. When Ghost Recon was deciding how to make enemies in the game harder, they didn't do much thinking about it. Instead of response and quick reaction forces speed, instead of abilities for enemies to heal a little bit behind cover, instead of more dynamic things like that, what they did is more hardy bullets. And on top of that, they also said, hey, here's what we'll do. We'll have this base on easy mode have 3 enemies. On normal, it will have 8 enemies. On advanced or extreme, we will add 70, which in my opinion is not the way to do it. Just adding a ungodly amount of AI enemies, and when I say an ungodly amount, it gets to the point where you have enemies that are just standing in the middle of a parking lot because they don't have any animation until anger happens, and they become aggroed to you, and then they all start moving, and now you're facing 70 dudes with more hardy bullets. So for me, normal feels the most real. Yes, on occasion, you're gonna feel like John Wick with your ability to run in and kill. It's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. However, to get that immersive feel, if you're trying to make the game harder than it actually feels, if that makes any sense whatsoever, normal is the way to go. Moving on. These next 2 sections here, difficulty, tactical, and interface, are where we're going to get a little more involved. So let's run over difficulty, tactical, and we're going to go over here to custom. Now, I've been running these settings for a while, trying to hone in that perfect experience for you guys. So I can't quite remember what may have been changed by me and what may be, the vanilla settings. So I'm going to run through everything. So keep that in mind. You may change it, you may not. And starting at the top, difficulty, tactical, like I said, we're going to have that set to custom. That should have changed when you added that setting earlier. In the main weapon slots, for me, I do run 2. And that's because I play solo a lot. So I do have a sniper or rifle strapped to my back, depending on which one I'm currently, having in my hand. So I do run 2, but if you're in a big crew, if you each have assigned roles, then maybe it is best to bring it down to 1 for realism's sake. So I'll leave that up to you and your crew of guys playing this game. On from there, bandage quantity, I have set to several, which gives you 5. There is the option for unlimited, which is obviously unrealistic, 12, which is kind of insane, and few, which is 3. If it wasn't for the drones and the robots and stuff in this game, I would probably have it set to few, because it's rare that an human enemy, really screws me up. The robots will screw you up fast, so I do have that set to several just because you do run into those fairly regularly, and they will mess you up. Hey guys, I want to jump in here real quick just to say thank you. Your support of this channel here lately has been absolutely phenomenal. If you're not a subscriber here yet, but you love tactical games and gameplay, then you have found your home here in the Deliberation room, and we would love to have you. So consider subscribing, hit the notification bell for my live streams, and back to the video. So this next section here, syringes heal injuries, we're going to have that set to off. Doing this requires you to do a little bit more planning and actually utilize the bandages that you have where we set that before. And having this allows you to utilize those bandages a little bit more versus just spamming syringes. Because I find it more realistic that if you have a bullet hole somewhere, you need to stop and actually bandage that up versus just pumping a miracle syringe and moving on. So we're going to have that set to off. Now, risk of injury, you can have this set to none, rare, often, or always. Always means anytime you get shot by a bullet, you will sustain an injury. Often means not every single time, but on occasion you will sustain an injury, and rare means you're pretty much never really going to get it, and none obviously means you never will. I have this set to often, and let me explain. The way you take injury in this game is after one hit, it is a detrimental hit, like make you limp, walk away, and that's not always how the injury is going to be in real life. In fact, on occasion, you might get a hit that, yeah, hurts like a mother, but you're able to walk over to the next area, maybe even sprint or run with some adrenaline and heal it over there. So if we have it set to often, not every single bullet is going to cause that detrimental impact. However, more often than not, it is going to, because, you know, chunky meat hurt when shot. So having this set to often does give me that feeling of being able to work through some adrenaline while also feeling a negative impact of a hit. So that's why I have it set to often. I know I said I wouldn't be explaining every single one of these, but so far I've had to explain every single one of these, so we'll see what happens. Stamina consumption is interesting. In the extreme mode, it makes it where it is harder on your running, but it takes it down to a point where it almost feels unrealistic for this top tier borderline super soldier who should have way more stamina than he's given in this game. So with that being said, I have that set to regular in order to not get tired so fast because I'm such a yoked out dude in this game. Health regeneration, I have played around with both partial and none. However, I'm going to be sticking with a none. With partial, it kind of heals you in the way Warzone heals you. You know, you kind of heal that like bracket of health if it's partially depleted. However, in the real world, you don't naturally regen, so I have that set to none. You're going to be using way more bandages and syringes this way. However, I feel it does boost that hardcore tactical aspect. Ammo loss on reload. I gotta explain this one. So what this does is, let's say you shoot 15 rounds of your 30 round capacity magazine and you do a reload. In the real world, there are two types of reloads, a tactical and a combat. Tactical reloads, you preserve that magazine by throwing it in a dump pouch, or I don't know why you would, but put it back in your rig. You hang on to it. Combat reloads are typically preserved for, you just emptied that whole mag, you don't need it anymore, throw it on the ground, you eject the mag, you put in a fresh one, you keep moving, and that one's on the floor. This feature's handled really good in games like Ready or Not and Ground Branch, because what it does is a single tap will do a tactical reload and a double tap of R will do a combat reload. However, in Breakpoint, you don't have that choice. So, if ammo loss on reload is on, it is as if you are always doing a combat reload. If you have a 30 round mag, you shoot one round, you will drop 29 rounds. So I understand how they thought that this could cause a more tactical experience, but it honestly hinders it if you keep it on. You wouldn't be dumping that many rounds in real life. You would be saving that magazine. So in abundance of realism, I feel honestly having this set to off is the better way to go. Sorry, that was a mouthful. Darkest Night, I have that set to on. And even with on, the nighttime in this game is not that dark. So I have it set to on. So this section here, teammates, I believe that's more for AI teammates and not like your actual teammates. Because like sync shot, you just kind of through comms time your shots. You don't actually sync shot. I'm not sure, but so I keep that checked. I've never noticed a detriment to my experience in having it checked on, so I just leave that the way it is. Social and bivouacs. Social and bivouacs, we're going to have that set to custom. Social hub, you know, that's up to you. If you want to talk with or be with friends and all that stuff and see them in Erewhon, it's up to you. So these two settings here, shop at bivouac and garage at bivouac. Now, if I were going for a true crazy hardcore experience, I would have this set to Erewhon only. In one of my videos, a guy put it really good. He called it living off the land, even as far as the bivouacs. You know, you get a vehicle at Erewhon and you need to hang on to that vehicle or find a new one as you move. You can't just go to a bivouac and get a vehicle. And I love that. I think that's amazing. So you might be asking now, well, why do you have it set to all? With me recording videos and things like that, a lot of times the cinematics is what I'm going for. So it's easier for me to just jump into bivouac and get a helicopter for this video than having to go to Erewhon, get the helicopter, bring it back. It's just easier for me on the content creation side. Now, does this lead to me abusing the mechanic when I'm just playing and having fun with friends? Absolutely. And that's something I probably shouldn't do. However, if you're going for the tactical hardcore experience, I would have this set to Erewhon. However, it's your game. Play it the way you want it. Finishing up the tactical difficulty, we're going to go down to interface and all the way over and hit custom. A lot of this stuff's going to be your preference, so we're going to skip a lot of it. Subtitles, we're going to skip, do what you like. Hence, I have that set to off. I don't want to be reminded that I'm exhausted. I don't want to be reminded that I'm exhausted when I am running slow and can visually see that I'm exhausted. So I have that set to never. So interface and size, we're going to go ahead and set both of those to custom because we're going to scroll down here and customize it all. So have those set to custom so that it opens these up. Crosshair, I have that set to never. I don't want to see my crosshair. I have a laser designator if I need to do this third person aiming. This does cause some issues sometimes. If me and my buddy hop into a vehicle and I jump on the gun, I don't have a crosshair for that gun. So if you're doing this method where you don't have a crosshair and you don't have a laser designator or a way to aim in the moment, just know that where the bullets go is always the center of the screen. That helps me in helicopters and stuff like that if I'm on the gun. Hit marker, I have that set to never. You're still gonna hear when you hit somebody. It still gives you like that you hit them. Thanks, game. Just so you know, I have that set to never, but you're still gonna know that you hit them or killed them. The sound is still there. The stamina bar, I have that set to never. Weapons and item display. I set the dynamic real quick so you can see. That's this area in the bottom left of that picture that it's showing you. Lets you see, you know, what you have selected and all that. I have that set to never, but I've also been playing the game for a while, so I know my keybinds. I know typically what weapon's in my hand. But if you're just now picking up the game, it might be worth playing for a week or so with that weapon and items display up. That way you can see what you've got. You can learn the basic mechanics of the game and, you know, figure it out from there. But once you've got all that down, I would recommend setting it to never. It is more fun, gives you more screen real estate. Less HUD means more realistic. Tool information, never. The class technique bar that lets you know when it's full, I have that set to never. Mission reminder. I do have mission reminder set to dynamic. This way, if I press tab or whatever keybind you set to, you know, pull this up, it will pull up my mission and the objective. And if I press tab again, it will get rid of it. If I have this set to never, I have to go into my map or go into my objective board and see my mission there, which that's a lot. I don't feel like wasting time in my game by jumping way over there when I can just press tab, read what I gotta do, press tab to get rid of it. It's really you're losing out on nothing. So I have that set to dynamic and small because my eyes aren't too bad yet. The detection gauge, that's that little bar that shows that you are being seen by an enemy. I have that set to never because sometimes that surprise of, oh crap, I've been seen is pretty fun. And also you can tell if you're being looked at by the enemy. Now in this situation, in this picture here, you're not going to be able to tell that one. But if you're walking past an enemy, you will see their head start to track you. And that is beginning of that detection gauge. Once you play the game enough, you can kind of tell when in that amount of looking, you're about to be seen and spotted. I have that set to never. I feel like it's more fun that way. Warning message, I have set to none. If you don't, it'll tell you, you know, calling reinforcements. It'll tell you fall back. It'll tell you when to do things and what's happening in the game. I prefer to be surprised and make my own decisions. So I have that set to none. 3D markers and loot. If you're new to the game and haven't gotten a good baseline of equipment or want to expand your equipment a little bit more, I would recommend having this to dynamic. That way you can easily get that loot so you can, you know, build out the character you want. Me, I'm past that stage. I've got the equipment I want. I'm comfortable with what I have. If I miss out on a skill credit here and there, if I miss out on a different pair of gloves, I'm not going to be hurt. So I have that set to never because I don't want to see that popping up on my screen while I'm playing. If you're looking for loot, if you're still early in the stages of the game, I recommend having that set to dynamic. But if you're ready for that tactical experience, you've got the loot you need, I have it set to never. The interaction shader you can have set to never or dynamic. Dynamic is going to have it, you know, have that little, the box is going to have that shimmer to it. If you have it set to never, it's just going to look like a box. I do have that set to dynamic because, you know, if I'm running past the box, I might as well grab it. And sometimes it's kind of hard to, you know, see some of these boxes if I am looking for something in particular. So I do have that set to dynamic. Loot notification I have set to dynamic. That's going to give you that pop-up of here's what you found in the box. If you have that set to never, you'll open the box and nothing will happen. Which is kind of weird because then you just have to go into your inventory and try to find what you just found. So I do have that set to dynamic and the light version of the notification visual, which just reads out what it is. That way I can at least know what did I just find in this box without having to go through all of my inventory to try to find it. So I do have that set to dynamic. I don't care about XP. I don't care about that at this point in the game, so I have that set to never. Up to you. HUD marker enemies. If you're going for a tactical feel, keep that off, because in real life, you don't have little markers above bad guys' heads. So we're going to have set to never. Allies, we're going to do the same thing, never. HUD markers for teammates, it's up to you. I've bounced back and forth between both, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm just playing, I might have it dynamic. If I'm going for like a video, I might have it set to never. So that's up to you. I'm going to flip it to never for now. HUD markers, objectives, I have set to never, which can be very annoying. When you jump into co-op, everyone's going to bring in their different settings. And a lot of the guys I play with, they do have this set to on, and I have it set to off. So that really confuses the tactics sometimes, because they'll say, hey, it's right over there. And I'll be like, how you know that? And I'll be like, the red dot over it. So it's up to you. It's how you and your guys play, or how you want to play yourself. I have it set to never. I feel it's more fun. My goal is to eliminate as much of that arcadey feel in this game as possible. And little markers over the spots I need to go to brings about that arcadey feel, so I get rid of it. So it's up to you. Communication HUD markers, however, I do have on. And that's because this one gets so confusing with the way I have it set up that this is one of the ways that I can actually keep our communication somewhat solid. Now, if you and your guys are going for a hardcore, like, tactical experience, have that set to off, because then you got to actually communicate, you know. So with this picture here, you can say like, hey, that low platform toward the front end of it, there's a guy walking right to left. You know, you got to really get specific about your communications, which I think is a ton of fun. But if you're just running around playing, having fun with buddies, have it set to dynamic. It makes communication way easier. HUD markers and alerts I have set to never, because if you have it set to dynamic, it'll tell you there's a grenade there. You know why you don't need that is because even in never, it's still going to give you that red ring. You can't get rid of that. That's annoying. Thank you, Breakpoint. Because like when a grenade gets thrown at you, you hear the ting, ting, ting. Like you hear it land near you. That should be your cue. Something just landed near me. I need to move. It could be better if they got rid of that little red line and just made you listen out for that audible cue of you need to move. So I have it set to never, just to get as good of an experience as possible, but it's never going to be perfect as far as grenades and incoming missiles and things like that. HUD markers for locations I have set to never. Minimap I have set to never. Now, what I really wish I could have is minimap always and minimap visual light. But I wish what it shows here in this picture with just that compass with bearings is all it gave me. Because then I could tell my buddies, hey, they are northwest of our position, and it'd be easy for them to get that reference. Because it's not like ground branch where you can look down at your wristwatch to have that bit of realism. So the problem with this mode, if you have your minimap set like this, you can see your direction. However, it will put circles around that indicating your current, you know, like, status in the environment. So if you're like in combat, it'll circle it yellow. If you're being detected, it will tell you that. And there's no way to turn that off. So really annoying. So because of that, I keep it set to never, but I would love to have this set up right here if it didn't give me that little circle of, you know, detection. So I have it set to never. So because all this is set to never, you shouldn't really have to mess with any of this. However, I have it set to never, never, never dynamic on the map, because I do want to see like the spots and what they're named. Settlement backgrounds, you know, that's literally the amount of darkness behind the letters. That's a setting they wanted to give us. Come on, Ubisoft. That's a setting they chose to give you instead of things I could have given you. However, for me, for a more tactical experience, I really do choose the heavy shadow. Pick what you want. I don't care. Moving on. Co-op and sync shot modules I have set to never. Notifications of like mission complete I have set to never. Current location down in the bottom right, I have that set to never. Inputs I have set to dynamic. By inputs, it means like right there in the picture, you can see that the open is shown there. And the reason I have that is more so for vehicles, but I have it set to dynamic for everything. So with vehicles in Breakpoint, there are very specific positions you need to stand to be either the driver, the passenger or the gunner of that vehicle. And if you didn't have the input reminder, you would sit there all day trying to find the perfect spot to get in that gunner position. So because of that, to make a more, kind of a seamless feel in the game, I do have that set to dynamic so I don't have to, play around with these vehicles trying to get into the right seat. The reminder of how to toggle your interface up in the top left, I have that set to never. I know for me it's the tab key. The join invite player shortcut, do whatever you want. PvP, I don't mess with PvP, and I don't think you do either, so do what you want. And text chat, I have set to off. The social and bivouac tab we have back here, we're not going to touch because we actually already customized that. We were in this setting earlier. Exploration mode, set to not guided. Now, one more little setting here that I've seen a lot of people asking about that I actually didn't play with much until recently. If you're in this page here and you go down to world parameters, it will actually ask you for your preference on drone presence, Azrael patrols frequency, and helicopter patrols frequency. Now, for drone presence, you can't completely get rid of it. You are still going to have behemoth, you're still going to have drones and missions, but in camps in the wild, you'll have none. So you can click reduce. The Azrael's patrol frequency you can have set to classic, which it's not that frequent, so I don't mind having it on. However, if you want to just completely get rid of those, you can have it set to none. Helicopter patrol frequency, I feel the frequency of it happening is pretty good, so I'm going to keep it set to classic, but you could also set that to none if you'd like. And you can change these settings for classic, resistance, or Operation Amber Sky. So it's totally up to you how you want to have that set up, you and your team. Just know that you need to come in and change it, and it will reload the game and teleport you to the nearest respawn location. So just do keep that in mind. Guys, there are a ton more settings in this game that deal with your keybinds and graphical settings and things like that, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about getting a good tactical experience, a good realistic experience in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And with that being said, I hope this video helps you. I hope you have a way better experience in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. If you're giving it a second try, go ahead and drop down in the comments what convinced you to give this game a second try. And also comment what other content involving this game you would like to see here in the Deliberation Room. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Please be safe and stay happy. Peace out.